Hi, I'm Ruben from Lime Green Training, and this video is going to be about how to select a consultant for your QCTO application. So why are we even talking about this? Is the use of consultants allowed by the QCTO? Does the consultant that you are selecting have independent review? Is there evidence the consultant even exists? Does the endpoint and pricing of the deal make any sense? And do they specialize? So why are we talking about this? When training providers hire consultants that fail, their clients lose money that they paid them. I've yet to hear of a case when they get their money back. They lose time because it's not always immediately apparent that their consultant is going to fail. Often they wait months or years before it's finally apparent that this consultant is not getting anywhere. And they often lose opportunities. So training providers will extend scope or become accredited because there's some kind of opportunity that they want to take advantage of, a business relationship or a possible contract, and they can easily lose the opportunity if their consultant fails and they don't gain the accreditation they need. It is unfortunate, but it does happen a lot. Many training providers hire consultants who fail and they lose money and time and opportunity. But it can so easily be avoided. Are you even allowed to use a consultant? So does QCTO policy ban the use of consultants, and why do they even have a policy on it? The QCTO policy is that it's stated in their Road to Success document on their website. It includes the text, if you do decide to use a consultant to help you, make sure that, and then it includes that information over there. So they at least their policy understands that you may use a consultant. The reason why we're talking about this is because some of the representatives and staff at QCTO and the CETAs have told people before point blank that you're not allowed to use a consultant, talk to one, hire one, anything like that. So that is entirely untrue, so just be aware of that. The policy doesn't say it. Also, I received some feedback from their CEO on my questions about this. That included, the QCTO agrees that they cannot prohibit you from hiring a consultant. I also took it further and hired an attorney for a consult on that, who told me it would be absurd. He went further to say it would be absurd for them to believe they could ban the hiring of consultants. Okay, but that doesn't seem to be what their management and policy says, even if some staff members get it wrong. The QCTO is talking about communication. They want to communicate with the training provider. They also want to make sure that the training provider is actually competent in what they're gaining accreditation for. In the feedback included was, QCTO feels consultants can be unduly overbearing. Now the QCTO would need to have a bit of give and take here, because a consultant who doesn't have experience may place undue pressure on the QCTO to follow up an application at a time that's not appropriate yet. There are phases to the application that need to be understood. So a consultant could easily be unduly overbearing, but at the same time QCTO does not always keep up with their own turnaround time, so you should just be aware of the fact that sometimes your consultant has to get a bit repetitive or follow up on something if it looks like it's running late. Companies who are not competent, STPs become STPs. This was probably one of the main complaints in the feedback, is they worry that companies who become accredited but don't even understand what that really means and what it entails. So again, I would say there should be a bit of give and take. While I agree with the QCTO that companies who are not competent training providers shouldn't become training providers, but on the other hand, companies who are extremely good at training and are absolutely competent at training find it very difficult to deal with the extremely bureaucratic process of applying for accreditation with QCTO, and they absolutely should be able to hire a competent consultant to assist them with that. So a bit of give and take there. I would say I agree with the QCTO on the spirit of their policy, and the execution sometimes is wrong. So if you're hiring a consultant, does your consultant have independent review? So are there reviews that exist on media that they don't control? What I mean by that is, for example, Lime Green Training has a website, and on the website there are reviews and testimonials from clients that I've put there as part of the design of the website. These are all true, but if you're hiring a consultant and the only information you get from them is what they've put on their website on their brochures, and information they send you. I'll be very worried because you're only hearing what they say their clients say. If the consultant has some kind of independent review, that's far more credible. So on the other hand, other than reviews I have on my website, I also have a Google profile, business profile, that has reviews on there. If someone posted a negative review on there, I wouldn't be able to delete that. I'd have to delete the whole profile, and you can see the profile's been around for many years. So you can do due diligence to see if there is some kind of independent review process by which clients say this company is good. So I've had a look at some of the larger names in the consultancies. I can see one that clearly has no has completely hidden any access to a client saying something negative. There's no information about what their clients say other than that what they give to you, and that's quite a big name, that consultancy. Is there evidence that they even exist? Now this is generally about the smaller consultancies, and I don't want to knock the little guy. I'm actually the only person who works here, so I would consider myself to be a small consultancy. I started very humble beginnings, without a lot of presence and without a track record, and needed some clients to trust me in that process. So I'm certainly not knocking the little guy. Some people are going to be brilliant and need just one or two clients to give them a chance. But nonetheless, you should be able to do due diligence to get an idea of whether or not your consultant is going to succeed. And to do that, social media presence is obviously a very low grade type of presence, because they could easily just delete profiles, and it's a little bit of admin for them to do that, but it's not a problem. A lot of scamming happens on social media, and there are people who run that kind of thing quite easily. So if there's only social media presence, I would be a little bit worried that this is maybe not enough evidence that you're dealing with someone who exists or is serious about what they do. Websites can also come up and go very quickly, but they show a little bit more establishment if they have some kind of, if search engines render that information from the website, then you see the website's been around for a bit longer. A Google profile or other business profiles are also good. They take a bit more time to set up. Some of them you have to pay for. But it's also the combination of social media and website and business profiles, evidence that they have some kind of a physical address, even if it's a work from home address. At least you can see that they live somewhere, rather than if they have to take your money, you don't even know, you couldn't even send a letter. A name you can independently search. So your consultant, you should be able to independently search them and find different things about them. If you search their name, you might find websites about their hobbies, but there should be some evidence that this person even exists. And if you search them and you find nothing at all, I would say that's very worrying, because that would be an indicator that they may be constantly setting up new profiles on social media. People pay them, they take the money, they don't do anything, and then they just set up another profile with a different name and different information. That's how scams work, and scams generally work on being able to reproduce things and to run search engine searches about them, and to find things means that they've been around for a bit longer than that. It's not foolproof, but it's a little bit better than nothing. So those are some of the things they'll be able to see if your consultant even exists. When it comes to the deal, does the endpoint and pricing even make sense? So there must be an endpoint. So for example, if I start an application process for a client and I'm helping them become accredited for first aid, there is an endpoint that's declared on the invoice, which is the day you receive your accreditation letter, for example. Once they've received that, then we can make another deal to do whatever needs to happen next. But there needs to be an endpoint, and understand that they need to consider the tracking and time it takes to have that application on your books for the entire time it's open. Applications take 3 to 6 months. That's a fair amount of time. They need to have charged you enough money to be taken seriously that they will actually look after your application during that time. Is your consultant the bottleneck? So I've seen examples of this where applications take 1 to 2 years. If an application is taken a year or something, your consultant is a bottleneck. An application, if I look at from 2017 to now, different CETAs and the QCTO, the global average of all my SDP applications is about 6 months on average. If your consultant is taking 8 or 9 months and you haven't heard anything, or there's been no movement for 6 months, I can tell you that your application, your consultant is the bottleneck. They've started something, they're not following it up, they didn't submit the application, and you might even have been better off doing it yourself. If your application gets lost, will they even know? So there are specific phases and points where your application should arrive at certain times. So while the whole application process might take 5 to 6 months on average, there are many points during that application that if no word has come from the CTO or the QCTO, your consultant should know that something has gone wrong. Applications slip through the cracks all the time, and I always know about them because there's been a certain amount of time has passed between this checkpoint and that checkpoint when we haven't heard, and that would be a clear indicator. Okay, so that's is your consultant the bottleneck? If your application gets lost, will they know? Have they considered the tracking and time when they decide how much to invoice you when you pay them? If you pay them very small amounts of money, they might not be tracking you, or they're tracking too many people and then they become the bottleneck. And is the endpoint declared? Alright, last item is do they specialize? So now I would say there are possibly, you could be a consultant who serves every single industry and not specialize and could possibly be competent, but that would really be a lot of work. So I tend to specialize, and even while I specialize with just QCTO specific industries and only a few seaters that I've actually used and done applications for, I can tell you that even with a specialist list, I would constantly have to update my sheets that show the contacts, who's in what department, they get fired, they leave, some people become deceased. It's very sad. So there's a lot of things that happen to the people who work in the departments. There are over 20 seaters. If you are dealing with someone who does not specialize, they would have to be meticulous at keeping track of all 20 seaters and who the contact people are in all those departments and follow them up. I would say it is possible, but I would say a consultant who specializes is probably more effective. Industry knowledge, that's another thing that's very important. If you are submitting applications for accreditation to certain types of industries, there's things you need to know about that industry. So for example, with the first aid applications, they should know that that's regulated training and that you also need Department of Labour endorsement afterwards. Things like that, they should be aware of this. This is also important for pre-application. Do they know the requirements that you need to meet before submitting that application? Like lifting machine operators would need different things than a person doing an assessor course, for example, or soft skills. So they need industry knowledge to know that you are, to check if you can be eligible to be accredited. Then, is the learning material tested, or is it kind of your problem? This is a difficult one, and I don't want to sound harsh, but the learning material is a central part of the application. The QCTO allows learning material of low quality to pass, and that's how they are. But that has the other disadvantage of when you're ready to train and accredited, then you don't really have learning material to do it with. But when your application process is underway, does your consultant tell you you need to find your own learning material, and it can't be my problem if it doesn't work? Now, it is a tough one. I have submitted applications where I've said to clients, look, I can't get involved in the learning material aspect. We've bought very low grade learning material that they wanted. We put it through the application. They got accredited. So it does kind of work, but I just feel I'm a bit uneasy about it, because if they coach you and you buy bad learning material, is your consultant going to be able to help you out of that? Or are they just kind of like, are you on your own for this one? If the consultant can provide the learning material as part of the process and guarantee that learning material, I would say I would feel a lot more comfortable. Whether that's their own learning material or they have a vendor where they have an agreement of some kind, I would say it's an important item. QMS. Is the QMS ready, and does it have a proven track record? This is if they are providing, your consultant is providing you with a QMS. Is it at least a good one? Does it have a track record of passing? Is it sufficient? If the consultant is using your own QMS, they need to be equipped to fix that QMS if it doesn't have everything there. So if you say to the consultant, can you provide the QMS, the consultant would need to go through the QMS and check that it is aligned and has all the components, and if it isn't, help you fix it, and do so in a way that doesn't jeopardize your application the same way learning material can if it's not accepted. So yeah, just I'll be careful of that one as well. So that is it. That is everything I want to cover on how to hire a consultant for your QCTO application.